Ah, Fountain. Wow, wow, what, what? Oh, what is this place? I'm here. I'm here. Am I here? Right. This is the mystery font. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'm Tim Cameron. This is the mystery font. And I am one of the hosts. We're assembling executive function. Executive function enough to be calm enough to purchase what's happening around us and interrogate it and the inertia of ongoing betrayal trauma, ongoing betrayal trauma, ongoing betrayal trauma, ongoing betrayal trauma. Since we're going through collective betrayal trauma, since we are all in an abusive relationship with the falsehood, it's good for us to do the difficult work of perceiving the falsehood around us. Whether it might seem easier to just hope that this goes away, to maintain tracking, and to tell predators who are clearly predators that need to be told no, no, successfully, to create boundaries with narcissists who would seek to spoil life on Earth or your life on Earth. We need to apprehend the falsehood. Who is the falsehood? Who has donned an age of falsehood? For all of the calling cards left repeatedly day after day, we have scant evidence of who may have donned the cowl of the falsehood. Who has donned the falsehood? We may never know. But glimpses like this of the falsehood entering or exiting one of their targets might lend us clues as to who the falsehood might be, or who might possibly know something about the identity any scrap of information that might lead us to the doorstep of the falsehood themselves. Of course, we all utilize dishonesty at times, and it's part of negotiating the world safely at points. But we have entered an age, having cracked through boundaries that protect us all, boundaries of trust, and boundaries that do not celebrate lying or make space for lying or call lying smart. From a position of authority, from the position presiding over a nation, to laud bad behavior, to laud behavior that destroys trust, to say that cheating other people is smart, and then to prove that to be the case, and then to lie about that as well. It is truly abominable what the falsehood has done to our world in the last 8 years. But I have a feeling we may be able to trace some shred of data that could give us information. Who is the falsehood? Yes, it's true. The falsehood won't go away. We can pull it from the screen, but the falsehood will not simply vanish. We actually have to tell the falsehood to go away. We have to hold the falsehood to boundaries. This contains the kind prehension. We are in the 20s. We are in the 2020s. While in the 2020s we have a chance to see 2020s. We have a chance to see 2020 together. Let the suggestion of the false positive that the decade of the 2020s is about being able to see a different kind of clarity together be placebo to that effect. Let the kind prehension happen because we need the kind prehension to happen. What if the Great Depression could have been met by a kind prehension of that? What if the Great War or the Second World War or the Vietnam War could be prehended? What if Project 2025 and Agenda 47 could be prehended and apprehended and helped to healthcare and accountability? What might contain the kind prehension? That it may be a particle that flourishes and helps protect us from fascism. What may administer and incept the kind prehension? That we hold each other accountable as a species to upend and dissolve efforts to install dictatorship, that we apprehend and show a light upon the neo-Nazis of the Heritage Foundation and the Charlie Kirk bandwidth of thinly cloaked hatred. We can prehend. We can have hension and prehension and apprehension as necessary. The new Colossus is waking up. We don't sit and do nothing while a predator grabs our private parts. Not this time. There's not just one of us involved here. And to freeze or feign or fawn can help sometimes. And those of us who might have other instincts may need to take the lead. That we can free ourselves from this. We can foment daylight upon. We can foster accountability. We can free from predation with transparency. And while the first resort of extremists such as MAGA is clearly violence, we can choose something entirely different. We can choose to foster something better. What is the kind of prehension? What would it look like if we can see the shape of fascism coming and help people who haven't seen the Allies come together before come together? Why don't we let the second greatest generation, or the greatest generation number 2, the reprise, come through? We've been getting better and better at fostering the idea that this generation can make a difference in how we work together to make a difference. That we can be at this moment, we can foster the accountability that we have never had, that we have pretended to and asked to be seen as. But now we grow into this. What if this is the moment when the United States is? That we live up to, yes, being inspired by our various faiths, but not trying to incept them upon in hegemony. What if we take the training wheels for white people off and allow, with no one being left behind, us to have level playing field? What if we remove structural racism? What if we actually allow ourselves to deal with things in stage age appropriate ways, as far as how children deal with them and as far as how we deal with them? Understanding maybe learning takes time, but also time moves forward and there are updates. We are progressing towards something. And the excuse that for enslavement in America that there was already enslavement doesn't hold water, because we innovated towards making things worse. We fomented chattel slavery and minted whiteness as a caste. We created devastating 24/7 terrorism and a comfy, cozy, couch plump vacation on top. The foam of colonists grows and has amnesia about where the foam came from and what the foam knows. But under the new plump couches and quilts and parties and vacations and happy beach weekends, right below that layer is a layer that holds the handles of a million knives. And those knives form the tread of a tank. And that's what we are vacationing on top of. A violent occupation, Jeffrey Dahmer cancer spread across this nation, and on top of that devastation rode a cozy vacation. We can apprehend and see that we don't have to be angry at human life for terror, for mistakes. We don't have to hate ourselves, but we don't have to love those things and re-entrench them or excuse them. We don't have to ignore that they happened. We don't have to be afraid of truth and reconciliation, because it's truth and reconciliation. And part of that truth and reconciliation includes that none of us here today began this horrible white supremacist patriarchal terror. We are all victims of it ultimately. But to solve it, we have to take account of fact that white people like myself, we may be light beige, but we've been riding white like a superhero suit that only light beige people get to have day or night. And we should be using that privilege up. We should be spending to dissolve. We should be leveling privilege that all should have, leveling with, so that we don't continue to reinforce the physics of a power paradigm where some people have to be in a dungeon and where oppression mirrors society as something that makes sense. That makes sense, or else we would change it. Why don't we change it? Why don't we change it? I believe that capitalizing upon human need and vulnerability is a wanton, re-entrenched daily mission to terrorize humanity out of humanity. We do not have to have this addiction to punishment anymore. It's an addiction. It reduces our effectiveness. It breaks us. It ruins our lives, because we are guards in a prison that none of us need or want, of ourselves and of our dreams. And if we farm ourselves or let ourselves be farmed by people who cannot spend the money they have power over, there's so much. Or surf 44 million like a Joker cosplay 44 billion, like a Joker cosplay, burning all the way. There's enough, and it's time for prehension of what there is. It's time for prehension of those who are saying water is not a human right, that we might prehend how to apprehend people who would grab power away from the human family, who would take potency away from human family to create capture pools and power through terrorism. Scarcity is a myth, and that a scarcity myth, a super exacerbated scarcity, is manufactured by our capitalism. It is a shooting gallery with comfy parts. And we need to remove the shooting gallery This is the renovation of love's imagination. Who is the falsehood anyway? If there were some way, and why lie anyway?
I made a speech. I looked out. The field was, it looked like 1 million, 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
It does not excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer your question.
No, you did not. You did
Yes,
not
we
answer
did.
the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
This was the largest ever.
Familiar. Quite familiar. Oh, that's what this place is? I keep refinding this. How is... And sometimes when I remember, it's like I'm remembering for the first time, but when I remember, I realize I've remembered this many, many times. I keep recovering similar areas within executive function again and restoring, like lights blinking, ooh, blinking on. Oh, right. That's who I am. That's what's happening. This is what is happening. That with trauma, with the brain damage we are all experiencing from years of abuse, from years of betrayal trauma, we are having difficulty prehending a threat to our lives, a threat to democracy, actual existential threat, imminent danger. We're having trouble apprehending that that's where we are. And I mean, shell shock, PTSD. We have a failure to communicate with ourselves, actually. And to apprehend what's happening. I would like to open up the one new RSB. You see there's a new track. There we are, 55. I think that's the newest. I think that's the one we want. We're going to share this with the device from which we shall play it, because there's a new RSB backing track that I'm working with, and I think it's very lo-fi and off the cuff, but I do like the ease of it, the feel of ease within it. There's something that I feel fairly positive about, and it's also more brief than the backing tracks I've been using, so there's a nice difference there. There's a nice difference. All right. So, whoa, whoa, whoa. Easy there, though. And that would be, let's see. First, let's begin. Let's begin with this. I'd like to give you an experience of the room. The camera obscura, as is now in effect. It's very gentle, and I'm showing a part of the room that's darker, but for the effect of when it does appear, there we are. Across the street there's a flag, so the camera obscura shows that flag backwards and upside down, as it does everything. All right, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee and prepare for, I'm going to find this, make sure the track is leveled and everything, and we'll be at it. Will return. the saying. Baby, I don't understand why we can't just hold on to each other's hands. This time might be the last, I fear, unless I make this all too clear. I need you so. Whoa. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. Take these broken wings. Baby, I think tonight we can take what was wrong and make it right. Baby, it's all I know that you're half of the flesh and blood that makes me whole. Need you so. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. Take these broken wings. Got to learn to fly and live so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. Yeah, yeah. Let us in. Yeah, yeah. Let us in. Baby, it's all I know that you're half of the flesh and blood that makes me whole. Yeah, yeah. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up W.E.B. Du Bois is one of the minds who is right there. His face is right there in the wall, the lower left, you can see. This very photograph itself even shows in the wall. All of us are here. All of us are here in the squiggles and darts and folds and oscillations and curves and portals and chambers of the mystery font. You are welcome here. This is the emancipation. This is the renovation of the reconstruction underway again, like it's maybe just begun. We can make the progress forward to truth and reconciliation. Those of us who can steward it can foster the actual conversation that helps us mourn and take accountability. Those of us who have benefited from white supremacist patriarchal terror, we can take accountability for where we have been and how we have been. And being blind to a system doesn't excuse that we have been benefiting from it. And seeing that benefit and folding that into an excuse again and again and again, we've confirmed bias that is false. We have denied and we have attacked and we have reversed victim and offender. I have used Darvo against things that would challenge me, not necessarily consciously, but I have to see that if I'm not taking accountability for how the shape that we're in is chosen and re-perpetuated, and it's wrong and we can change it, then I'm either part of this moving forward or I stand against what realization we've had. And that we might be the revelation made a happiness against the sad that we stand to and stand for. and we're fostering what we know to be kindness that doesn't use borders to other people, that remembers what the actual mission of Christ was and doesn't take a name like Christ as a banner of righteous terror. We are the reality distortion fielding and emancipation and emancipatrization, using intuition with science as part of what makes us scient minds. We can listen to the minds of democracy clarion like W.E.B. Du Bois, because there has been a pathway and the evidence is there. We have minds who we know are real, true minds that can tell us where we've been, and that, in fact, enslavement was that bad. We don't have really any business, it seems to me, as people like myself. I'm white. I mean, I'm light beige, but I'm white in terms of this culture. I'm Norwegian, and there may be some ancestry, indigenous ancestry, but it's very limited, and it's the same sort of thing that's spoken of but not necessarily known, and also is a false, it just shows a matter of disrespect and a lack of consciousness about it, that it's kind of a stereotype that everyone or every other person seems to say, oh yes, there's some Cherokee in the mix too. I'm German, or really my ancestry is from New Zealand and Russia, but I might be part Choctaw. People really, the pretendian, but an even more kind of lax version of it. And how is that not, trying to just be aware, it's so often just going to be another fold of genocide. We need to get away from the idea that talking about processing genocide, our own American apartheid, that is anti-white people, or that is against anyone. To process actual crimes that have happened, especially on a massive scale, and especially from which people still profit, is a matter of law and order. And it's a matter of human dignity, and it's basic. It's ground level, day one stuff that, with the clarity of mind that could have come with sound leadership in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, we have been fluxing between an ability to maybe see 2020 together. And in this still relative aftermath of that trance of multiple minutes of watching someone snuff out a human life on the street for simply malicious purpose or blind spot of absolute havoc under a system of white supremacist patriarchal terror. How does that otherwise happen? That you kneel on a person's neck and don't stop. There's no way. What makes it clear that there's really an aspect of intention and, pardon me, content warning, of lynching to the murder of George Perry Floyd, and even aspects of potential premeditation, it seems very clear that there is certainly cultural harm that continues within the Minneapolis Police Department and within police departments across the country, terrified to progress and deal with reform that actually protects all officers, let alone all Americans. That training people to peacefully hold the peace is a project that is entirely American. And yet we are enforcing more and more of a police state. We, as human beings, have to recognize that the falsehood radiates through us and that we all utilize Darvo in some sense. But to see it utilized against right and against justice, to see it utilized by someone who is supposed to be accountable. That we hear the calm within a mind like W.E.B. Du Bois to bring us to bear upon how do we see these moments. And we will visit the work of W.E.B. Du Bois, but likely not today. I think it's important to bring people to mind and let what we know of them enter the picture for us. And that is as important, bringing resonance and letting that speak. And it's something that I will and want to foster. Pardon. And so I want to find a way to bring to minds and people and faces who bring us messages. And this is one, W.E.B. Du Bois. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois. The mystery font. And have that Darvo card handy, Scoop Troop, because you certainly, if you run into someone, say even a real disciple of the falsehood, let alone you come upon footage or a message, maybe a personal message to you in your email from, is that from the falsehood? Well, just whip out that Darvo card and slap it over the view screen, Scoop Troop, or bring it to mind mentally. Just pull it up into the readout and say, looking at, say, your spoons or your power level or your super erogatory zeal for the day, these kinds of things that you keep up there around the reboot button, around the maybe it's time to meditate button, in the general near constant or constant, or we can call it up in a snap readout, have the Darvo card there handy at the side just to be able to pop it up, because what if we are dealing with the falsehood and we can say, this moment I'm in right now, I'm seeing kind of a mist appear. I'm seeing a kind of a mist, and in the mist there's something is there. Someone, and I may just not feel safe enough that, gosh, hey, if I'm about to hear a little message from someone that I'm concerned about, I don't know that I can depend upon this person to deal with me forthrightly. So I'm just going to be aware I might be encountering Darvo. So I'm going to keep these 5 letters in front of me for a moment here as this person talks. Like maybe they'll have something to share that might be useful, might be worthwhile maybe they'll tell me something about themselves. Maybe they'll tell me something about what they believe about our relationship to one another. Maybe they're here with an olive branch. I mean, that's the thing, is even if somebody's really been awful, and especially if someone's been unkind, especially if someone's been particularly awful, wow, yeah, I really appreciate that moment when I think, you know, they're a person. They're going to reference what happened, and they might not even apologize, but they might acknowledge it, and that might be the beginning of what becomes candor and fosters actual apology. There might be an evolution here that. And so when someone steps to the microphone, especially after something rotten has happened, there's hope. For me, there's hope that I'm about to hear kindness. And having the Darvo card handy is good just to also be gentle and kind without so much hope in loaded into a chamber without care. That I'm in a hope holds hand while I'm hoping, because I know that there will be ample opportunities to care, and I don't want to wear out my care. I don't want to wear out the spoons of my care. So when Marjorie Taylor Greene comes on the screen, I'm going to hold my hand. I'm going to hold my hope's hand and say, this is probably, be aware, this is probably an abusive communication, because Marjorie has demonstrated a capacity for shocking boundary violations. And so if I see Marjorie coming through the mist, or hear someone working with that bandwidth of content warning, the bandwidth of, for Marjorie Taylor Greene, what I can only describe, or what I would describe as lynch mob brain syndrome, that someone fomenting mindless violence tries to indoctrinate a trigger space, shell shock, terror, a fight or flight response that is absolute panic and fight or flight or freeze or feign or fawn or free. There may be there may be really no way to overstate just how important it is that we foster meditation, that we foster skills of calming ourselves, that we do need to be, we need to tune in to the Jedis that we can be, as far as things like meditation, things like personal mindfulness and balance, that we need to foster. We need to foster in ourselves, and especially our kids and everyone around us. We need to foster trust in education. We need to foster trust in kindness. And we need to foster trust in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Literally, only the Ku Klux Klan and the Nazis and people that they have hoodwinked would be trying to remove ideas about being woke. Woke is about human kindness. And if you hear people bad-mouthing wokeness, they're bad-mouthing blackness there. If you hear them bad-mouthing wokeness, they're bad-mouthing trans people and fomenting trans genocide there. If you hear people bad-mouthing wokeness, they're bad-mouthing gay people. They're endangering people who have been targeted. If you hear Darvo being used to call wokeness, which is essentially loving our neighbor as ourself, if you hear people like the Heritage Foundation and their Project 2025 saying that wokeness is a problem, check the date and make sure it's not 1945, because that is Nazi talk. And no one threatens the United States of America with Nazi dictatorship. We are going to stop this attack. How? We are manifesting together, all of us, enough of us who can calm from harm from people like Tucker Carlson, we are working to apprehend malice on a scale that decimates millions of lives. So to apprehend people like Tucker Carlson and the Nazi collaborators and neo-Nazis of Project 2025, we do need to keep those Darvo cards handy. There are massive distortions in the field of reality. And it comes from a font of abject, absolute. So absolute, let's mint it here. Absolute, absolute and indiscriminate and abject. Decimation of fact. Because absolute tribalism, the worship of a single person, a magical cult of personality, distortion of reality, certainly a false magic, certainly a false deity, a false faith. We're dealing with our inability for a lot of us to apprehend that there's just a very potent con man. And every time that he gets to the mic, because there's something unbuckled in him between his ability to present and conscience and empathy, there's something that doesn't show us in any way that he's human in some important moments, and that he is so bloodthirstily eager to sow shocking boundary violations, to show dominance, to conquer us, to show as much violence as he can with simple language and wearing a suit and walking slowly, to be American Psycho, to be Patrick Bateman swinging an axe, with how he slowly walks. Because if what's in your slacks is documents that, you know, the nature of them being outside of a double safe in a room they're never supposed to leave, the idea that he has, likely still has, documents that he should not, that no one should have outside of the safe, guarded space where they're supposed to be kept at all times. That he has broken basic covenant and contract and law around national security so gravely, and we are not simply addressing it. We should have the people who are the ones to talk to this kind of thing in terms of military and Secret Service and other people outlining what has happened. Because this is real. The coup hasn't stopped, and we're also not apprehending that it began. The inability to simply shout the lying, traitorous canker out of the street and slap the phone from his hand and say, doddering, demented maniac, shut up. No one has absolute authority. And no one gets to threaten a judge. Do it again and you're going to jail. He should be in jail because people go to jail when they threaten judges and prosecutors and the FBI. They go to jail. The only reason that he's not in jail would be that we have submitted to his idea that he has absolute authority and gets to do whatever he wants. The only reason that he is free is that people are afraid to treat him as he should be treated based on his behavior. That is acceptance of submission. There is not a double standard. There is a doubled over person over a barrel that they do not have to be laying over. We are not over a barrel. Our justice system is role-playing as if it is. The press is not the enemy of the people. The press is role-playing as if it is, because people are terrified and submitted and so maliciously exhausted, existed through malice, diarrheaed upon us, exhausted, 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 because how would someone dare, when we're facing climate collapse, habitat collapse, and have to deal with that, when there are issues with immigration that need to be dealt with, and dealt with consistent with our faiths and beliefs in humanity. When Flint does not have safe water, we have things to deal with that lynch mob brain syndrome inceptors like Marjorie Taylor Greene should be slapped from the map for. We do not have time to deal with maniacs trying to start lynch mobs based on lies. Maniacs trying to start lynch mobs like Tucker Carlson based on white suspicion spoken as if it is damning fact. Tucker Carlson should be in prison for sabotage and sedition, as should Rupert Murdoch. Is he alive still? Well, his Twitter account isn't. Tucker Carlson should be tried for sabotage and sedition. Hosts who have thousands of times, you don't print a retraction after one or two, you ring a bell that could change people's lives, you change it. But this hasn't just been a mistake or two. This has been an absolute campaign of permuting damage through falsehood. Some falsehoods change everything. It's not a small thing. It's the difference between oxygen or none. It's the difference between safe or dangerous. It's the difference between the person telling us they're coming back is worthy of the office and safe to be a part of such endeavors, and the person who's coming back is not only the person who attacked our country, but is possibly the worst possible option we could have. If we could choose one person to say, this person or their pretender, this person or someone who follows them, in their stead, to take the gaping hole they've broken open, saying, hey, Manifest Destiny Kool-Aid. The hole that he has blasted through reality is cancer. It is the cancer of white supremacist patriarchal terror. It is greed. It is the throne of greed. And we do need to confront Tucker Carlson and the Nazis of Project 2025. The Alex Jones bandwidth, the Marjorie Taylor Greene bandwidth. There is nothing more enemy than fomenting falsehood for profit, for profiteering, to sow more of the same white terrorist crime. That is who Tucker Carlson is, or is collaborating with. The falsehood is the structure of white supremacist patriarchal terror. That is the largest. Its promulgation and its festering crime. That is the delicious foamy float on top of a vacation, on top of a tank made of knives. It is that tank made of knives that the Matt Walsh bandwidth drives, or aspires to drive, aspires to lick the ass of. That the shitty, boot-licking Nazis like Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh, fascists like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Andrew Tate, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Carrie Lake, Greg Abbott. Anyone who would do the bullshit, the mass murder, this razor wire Nazi nonsense. To anyone supporting that, you are behaving as Antichrist. You are behaving as Antichrist, and you are shitting in the face of God. Human family doesn't do this to human family. You're embodying Nazi cancer when you say, we're just going to put razor wire up. There's just no reason to do that. And that's not how we solve a border crisis. We do not have open borders. That's not what it means. And the idea that things are out of control or that we have an open border is simply really distorted propaganda of the neo-Nazis of MAGA, the neo-Nazis of Project 2025. The neo-Nazis like Tucker Carlson, who gleefully try to prod white supremacy back into good stead, rather than help humanity vanquish this cancer and leave it behind us so we can all move forward, we can all move ahead. It's time to grow up together. We can remove the training wheels for white people. So we need to apprehend the Nazis of Project 2025. We need to stop Project 2025 now. Those are the findings of the mystery font. And Tucker Carlson, for his incredibly destructive and murderous, seditious, damaging falsehoods, should be tried for sabotage and sedition. It's criminal for him to be walking the street without having to account for these massive, massive wounds that he has given us. The kind of breaking up of our fabric for people to be dealing with lies that destroyed families, that fostered over 1 million people being killed by COVID in America alone. That's on Sean Hannity's head. That's on Tucker Carlson's head. It's on Rupert Murdoch's head. It's on Maria Bartiromo's head. It's on Bill O'Reilly's head. These folks have wantonly partied on our minds. Just reality distorted us to the brink of civil war. And they haven't stopped. They're getting to paying almost $1 billion at Fox alone, just for lies about the 2020 election, which they still foster, to my knowledge. We are dealing with massive distortions in the field of reality. So keep the Darbo card handy. Just remember in some way to have those things available, to be conscious of what's going on around us. I love you. Radio, science, brain will return. Will return. Will return. Will return. Will return. Will return. Radio science brain. mindless made this imagine a new substrate. Pretend that kindness came to maybe capably activate the main line today. Radio science break from my brain. I update this daily mind gaze into imagination. The mindless made mind contain. Radio science brain. I made this. Imagination ape. Radio science brain. This is the mindless gape. I gaze into imagination. This seance I break. This is the dialing clarion aim. I'm the mindless made this room contain. Radio science brain imagination aid became. I sing a sentence that begins and I know the ending when I reach that place and I see what's made plain. Radio science brain imagination aid. This chronicle I braid. It's an improvisation. This is the renovation of love's imagination. It's different every time. Radio science brain springs forth just from my mind. From my lips it now trips. I'm losing, where's the note? I'm doing it again. Where's the intonation? Grip it, grip it, grip. Lose the tone. That's why I did a new arrangement. Maybe I need a new EQ on this original tone. It's not quite the first, but the first with which I improvise this with thirst. Imagination burst will return. Will return. Will return. Will return. I ask your will to return. I ask you to believe we can say no, and let's verify that ability. Let's say no to atrocity upon us, upon this dust, upon humanity. Imagination aim contains the freedom that is pursuing happiness. Actually, is this the mindless? Is this the mindless made this containing? Radio science brain imagination aid. This is the mindless I won't evade. Mindless contagious aim into aid. This is a chronicle, this is wool I unpull. This is not poison wool. Imagination cool for school. This is the mindless aping mind aim. This is the mindless aping aid from my brain. time. It's a flow state in meaning and mindless climb. Imagination wide. Imagination wide and guided. Imagination finds stride in it. Contain this gray array and find function. Imagination, imagination come. Imagination may be game to play. Radio science brain, pretend that love is sane, pretend the mind escapes a maid. Imagination may become. This is the science clarion one. Imagination and curiosity come. The curiosity cup, it's a sign up. It's a science up. This, would you sup? What's up with this around this? The mindness has some findings, insist. The mindness intuition confining mind. It's the kid that we're rid with. This is the mind, like your mind, listen to it. Listen to your mind, find a quiet space and open to your gift. Listen to you like you've never heard your voice before. Listen to you like you're not always there at your door. Listen to you like you know you've internalized things that have told you you're not worth listening to in times. Imagination aid, remain the gray ray campaign. Radio science brain, relay your love, relay the way, Germaine. You know the kindness comes, you know that you have some in spades. Imagination aid, love won't evade. You are the mindless made, life contained. Radio science brain, relay the radiation. You are the radiation, you are the radiation, you are the radiation of love's imagination. Awake and germane. You are the radiation. You are the radiation of love's imagination, Germaine. Radio. Science. Brain. Will. Return. Will. Return. Will return. You are the dream away. science brain imagination. Pretend the kindness came in case to take imagination. Pretend the capability for this game that we're in wasn't you when you found it come true. Pretend the kindness came here in you. Pretend you told me the truth. Now I'm singing it to you. That's how Will returns, and Will returns with news. You are the mindless proofs. Imagination aid can use and won't abuse us. We are new Colossus. It's obvious. We are the renovation of love's imagination. We are the radiation of Germain. Radio science brain imagination. Pretend that love is sane. Pretend that love is sane today. Radio science brain imagination. This contagious this ache. We can ease any break. Imagination might make this capable aim into aid today. Radio science brain emancipation aid. Will return. Will return. That's an interesting track to work with. That's a new track, and it's not much over, it's like 3.5 minutes. It's less than half the length of other radio science brain tracks that I've had any comfort with. So I kind of like that short length. In fact, as a display for anyone who just listened to that, or now is rewinding to listen to the previous one, after listening to this, this is also Radio Science Brain with the same track. In the height of this high imagination, I imagine life without knives, contrive to find the way anyone can wive kindness into their lives. Imagination it might find how love strives. Imagination aid might science that sees kindness means we have to promote tolerance. Imagination makes aid. We won't fail to force the end of forced birth. We won't allow a handmaid's tale. Imagination will not fail. Our creativity is part of how we protect sensitivity. We are wiggly, and where we feel things is where we actually tend to be. We are not too sensitive, we are too sensitive to give up on being who we are. We are true. Tolerance means we tolerate all but intolerance. We learn it now, after now is late. Imagination ate, imagination aped what this ape came with aid through for asking for our freight to arrange the matrix, a new one, not oppression, actual actuation, emancipation. This is the kind awakening, kind prehension came. Remain, radio science brain, pretend the mindness made relation to actual aid. It's not a cold fusion, it's not a Kool-Aid, it's room temperature, and it is human-made. It's sentient, it's came. This is the mindness. This is the mindness. This is the mindness. Hello. I'm Tim. This is the mystery font. And sometimes I use radio science brain to find flow. I sing, and each time it's different. There is improvisation, and it follows a poetic flow and sometimes a narrative flow of meaning. And it is chronicle. It has been happening for some time. And that was a version or two there in a row with the same new track. Fairly low-key, recorded quickly with a few passes. And we'll see how much I use that, but it is a really simple structure that I take to places that are sometimes probably deeply annoying, maybe. But building on a simple structure and trying to liberate it from that simplicity or ease the incessance of something that might seem incessant. It's a compression of a kind of potency, I suppose. It's like creating a vacuum and then utilizing that vacuum's veracity. At any rate, in fact, at 96 beats per minute, it's radio science brain. And next, 13. Oh, look how the heart nestles in there. in the falsehood, there's a song cycle of original songs that I've written and that I'm crafting new recordings for a couple of those of to share as a song cycle that would be what is the live performance skeleton for the falsehood for production this year. And along with original music, there are also a couple of songs that I hope to use, or I'm inspired to use, or something like this. Existing pop songs, standards that pardon me, I had to cough there. Given what we've been going through, given the abusive relationship we've been in with Donald Trump for 8 years, that's become universal, essentially, individual and universal, as well as, you know, this long time thing that I think, due to the nature of this abuse, we don't really talk about it, and we just want him to go away, and we just like hope if we don't poke the nest, if none of us rock the boat, if none of us rock his boat, well, if at least if I don't rock his boat when he is in my face, I don't have to say no to him. Like, we are not dealing with basic substrate stuff. This is the kind of stuff that would have stopped us here at 13. We have to manifest the kind of self-respect that, well, but I guess that's not really the idea. It's not that we really progressed so wisely. Maybe it would have been far better to find kindness here and not, you know, I mean, my ancestors could have spread here or contacted here and there could have been some kind of a hybrid friendly promulgation of, I mean, can colonization or something like it look different? Can immigration, like was beginning from as the colonies, could that not look different? Could that not have honored the people who said, sure, you're welcome to be here and we'll help you? How would that have looked if it were actually fostering just practice and saying, well, you know, we're just going to go by the golden rule here. We're just going to obey our good book and treat our neighbor as we would treat ourselves. And if the idea is we'd say, well, boy, if I was being this kind to strangers, just helping them live, I'd be ready for somebody to poison wool blankets my butt. I'd be a fool. Like, what fools? How dare they save our lives and help us and be kind? How dare they treat us like family? I don't understand that Marjorie Taylor Greene's poison wool blanket energy. I don't see that is a terroristic kind of Matt Walsh kind of an approach to living, a normalization of shocking boundary violations to try to bring havoc, and definitely for personal profit in the case of someone like Matt Walsh. Just honorless, abusive, terroristic coercing of people to accept abuse and totalitarian harm. It's really gross. It's taking on the affect of cancer. And those folks need, I mean, he needs accountability in healthcare. That's a violent person. Who knows whether he is violent to people physically, but he's a violent person. And if you are watching any content having to do with and coming from Matt Walsh, if you are receiving messages from Matt Walsh, if you are receiving broadcasts from Matt Walsh, have that Darvo card handy, Scoop Troop. You might as well slap it up on the screen. You might as well have it handy to just call up to the view screen of your readout, or just keep it in mind that you may run into a significant amount of denial, attack, and reversal of the victim and offender. And like Trump, the denial happens in a preemption, I think, with Matt Walsh, that he doesn't see something that he likes in reality, and so he decides to foster a distortion of reality. And then anything that doesn't comport with his distortion, he denies as if it's lies. So, like Donald Trump deciding that someone's private parts are his personal property, and so reclassifying them, declassifying from the person who owns them, and saying, I'm going to go and grab that Sudetenland between her legs because I'm a star. And that anyone who gets in the way, including the owner of that Sudetenland, is just, attacked because, I mean, he's already successfully denied that Sudetenland ever belonged to them, really, and certainly took possession of it a couple of years ago with his mind. And how did they not get the memo? How did they not feel a tingle of colonization? But fools, he's there and reverses the victim and offender to say, how dare you be so rude? This is marriage interference. I came here to grab your crotch. This is marriage interference. How dare you? In the falsehood, besides the song cycle that I've written, there are also songs, as I mentioned, from the past, pop songs and standards, songs that we know, folk songs, that carry meaning that is amplified or distorted or shaped in this era of permuting falsehood. And Broken Wings is one of those, and another one is the Alex Chilton or Big Star song 13. And so the idea of liberty, a resonance of the minds of everyone involved with American democracy at that time, liaising as one imagination of democracy that shares everyone's hope and ideal and knowledge, knowing all of the lies, knowing all of the truths, knowing all of the facts and where facts were buried and where bodies were buried, and knowing also within the sentience that there is breadth and depth enough to actually know how to truth and to reconcile, how to find truth and reconciliation, how to be veritable together in ways that have transparency and accountability and invitation to sharing gift of learning, of discovery, of vulnerability, and leveling up together. If we've gone through this, and if we stop denying that it's happened, we can be stewards to moving things forward. We can be a world that has healed as opposed to done another generation's work of making it worse and just re-scabbing over the same wrong answer. The American apartheid can be healed if white people grow up enough to calmly look at whiteness as separate from we light beige people who are human after all. And yes, we've been called white, and so fine, we're white people, but we need to unpack and deal with the harm and malice connected to that with some ability to see that we are not taking apart ourselves to take apart the concept of whiteness, to see that we are not attacking white people, to actually do the hygiene of making sure we're not being shitty, genocidal, terrible people as a group, that we're not targeting or fostering the targeting of others based on this centuries-old havoc of white supremacy. Racism is white supremacy. There's not a reverse version of it. People can discriminate based upon race, but that's not racism. Racism is the system of white supremacist patriarchal terror. And getting right where the perpetrator and where the lie and where the entry point of the blade is, and how we administrate care to the body of the human family. Like, we have to be aware of where the weapons are and when they're still in the body, and whose body, or if it's everyone's body, how do we help this wound stop happening? Because we haven't solved it. We haven't really left enslavement behind. Not entirely at all. And we're definitely still letting white people and structures that are stealing wealth that should be spread throughout, far more spread throughout, because it was stolen from where it was spread throughout. We've seen redistribution of wealth to corporations from a mere beginning of a foothold of people being able to actually pursue happiness. That has been robbed. That has been robbed. And what does it mean if the statue is singing 13 and sings, "I won't make you"? To those assembled colonists, we need to admit that we don't know how bad it was, but it definitely was at least as bad. And we have evidence. We have to, as white people, as colonizers, we have to stop saying it wasn't so bad. That kind of gaslight, that kind of Ron DeSantis Nazi bullshit is terrorism. There's really not another way about it. For people to say that enslaved peoples benefited from slavery is Nazi propaganda, Nazi attack. It is Nazi nonsense. That is psychic warfare. To tell people who are the ancestors of enslaved peoples that they're oppressed people, and that the continued oppression and entrenched racist, the structural racism that is replete, like, we are within a matrix of white supremacist patriarchal terror, and screws are tightening and a handmaid's tale is buckling itself into being, unless we actually stop saying he wouldn't do that. We have to apprehend the rife corruption of the clear actual corruption, not the hypothetical. We can get to the hypothetical once somebody finds something actual, but maybe let's not spend like actual tons of government time on searching based on hope of finding wrongdoing. Like, we have things to actually do. There are actual crises. I mean, God, prosecute somebody if you find something wrong, but this ridiculous searching for stuff. We have 91 actual charges based on actual evidence against someone who is telling us he's coming back when we should be filing a restraining order. He's saying that's marriage interference. That's not how it works. You don't get to just come and have an election because your right to say you're running for office, no matter what you've done before, is your constitutional right, and that supersedes us. No. You don't have absolute authority. You're not more important than us. You're not more important than any one person, in fact. You're not more important than the United States, and you're not an alternative to the United States. That wouldn't happen without a coup. If we look at the actual format of what he has set up, what physically is happening, he is an iceberg heading for us. And terrified news networks, people submitted entirely to making money instead of sharing the news, are perverting our ability to see what's happening. Because when someone is charged with a crime and news anchors are clearly encouraged to dial into everything, no matter what he does, to dial into it as horse race material. Like, Jeffrey Dahmer has come back from the dead and is running for office. And he's wiping bloody bits of people from his mouth at press conferences, and people are finding DNA of people in his stool, and every time something is said, every time he's charged with another crime, the corpse of Jeffrey Dahmer running, the news says, oh gosh, is it all these charges, is this going to be good for him? Gosh, is this good for him? I wonder, do you think literally suggesting again and again, literally promoting an idea of that the thing to watch for is this going to be good for him? Not what's happening, not what does his declaring that he's running for the presidency mean, but, oh, how is he going to do? Not declaring a run for the presidency as an insurrectionist is an act of war. But, oh gosh, is this announcement it's really going to poke people in the eye, and is this going to be good for him? As if there's not crime happening, as if that's not the story. Because the idea is, the story is, it's just inevitable. Is it just inevitable? If the media doesn't do anything? Is it just inevitable if we don't do anything? Stop hitting yourself? It's absolute Stockholm Syndrome nonsense. He's never been eligible to run since the moment he suspended democracy on January 6th. Period. We should have stopped him long before then. We should have stopped him when he started threatening Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. That was unforgivable. We should have stopped him many times. Individual things which are unforgivable and irretrievable, certainly if you won't admit they're wrong. We do not need a reprehensible, evil exterminator. God doesn't use those for people who are claiming they're following God to follow Trump. What does it mean, let me walk you home from school, if the mind of everyone says to each of us. Let me walk you home from school. Won't you let me meet you by the pool? Maybe Friday I can get tickets for the dance and I'll take you. Won't you tell your dad, get off my back? Tell him what we said about Paint It Black. Rock and roll is here to stay. Come inside, it's okay. And I'll shake you. Won't you tell me what you're dreaming of? Will you be an outlaw for my love? If it's over, let me know. If it's no, then I can go. I won't make you. What does it mean if the mind of democracy says to each of us, I won't make you? We don't have to build cruelty into our codec. We don't have to use razor wire. And so anyone choosing to do so is instituting Antichrist malice. We don't need to scar people for having needs. That is evil. It is quite simply evil. And attributing that to being consistent with Christ is evil. Christ doesn't look across a border and say, put the razor wire here. Will return. Will return. Zora Neale Hurston. Another mind, influential upon the mystery font, and influential upon humankind, independent and influential upon the imagination of democracy. This is the mystery font, 42 Ope Intuit. And the mind of Zora Neale Hurston has songs for us. They are here in the walls. This is the mystery font. And the font seeks artists who can bring the work of Zora Neale Hurston or the voices of artists of the global majority, of human beings of the global majority, to life here in collaboration with me or on your own. I can help to foster, or I can simply give you the keys and start the stream. This is the mystery font, and there is a room here for your story and a space for your song. Well, I think that is that the mind. There we have a bit of the mindness showing. Ah, yes, the mindness sowing. Sometimes it soft, gentle, kind of just buckles in to being in space here. This is the mindness of the mystery font. How are you? At times, it is all we can do to simply calm and foster executive function, especially in a time when dark triad predators are entering spaces in power, in government, and in institutions to foster a lack of executive function. When we are being told that Project 2025 is coming to sow malice and harm, that in these times we do need to foster executive function. It's going to be all right, but we have a truly terrible threat that has been levied at us, this idea that Project 2025 is just coming or else. And what is termed a presidential transition project, this Agenda 47 protocol blitz. We need to see this for what it is and take time to apprehend these gathering fascists and criminals. To sow lynch mobs and an entrenched power structure of mercenaries. We've seen a sampling amidst the first Trump administration, amidst the only Trump administration. People like Kellyanne Conway, who truly simply act as mercenaries and as if driven by evil. Certainly willing to, at least for money, if not because of some ideological allegiance to Nazism or hegemonic white supremacist patriarchal terror. If not for that, then she is at least willing to take money to tank the human species, to let us be taken away from stewarding our habitat just when we have potentially few years to upend absolute malice and havoc. We need to be protecting water from Nestle. We need to be protecting human rights from Nestle and corporations working to corner resources. We have things to be about other than being chased by people saying they're chaste. We need to apprehend the neo-Nazis and Nazis and Nazi collaborators of the Heritage Foundation and their band of fascist thugs. These are findings of the mystery font, and it is not easy to talk about, but it's easy to see how if we cannot assemble reason to see with prehensile ability an iceberg telling us it's coming, then we are in shock. So to calm through executive function restoration, through meditation, to assemble our executive function, to assemble the ability to see something coming that looks potentially terrifying, or at least that intends to be, that is telling us this coerces you, and there's no other option, that we can actually level up here and realize that only predators tell you woke is bad. Only predators tell you to go to sleep and just trust that we're going to choose the right people at whom to be bad. Just don't be so woke. People who tell you not to be woke want to eat you while you're asleep. Want to do things that you won't notice while it would be better for you if you had. If you don't want to be had, trust the one who has the watch. Trust the one who has the watch overnight so that you can be awake during the daytime and sleep soundly at night. That when you're well rested, you are woke. And that when you sleep, you have slept a sleep when you're asleep that is of a person who is awake when they're awake. You are well rested and you are psychically and psychologically, hygienically sound. You are adhering to, if you hear people in the world saying, I think you've lost the capacity for reason, have you checked the facts on that? You believing anything that he says? Please, please, please. There's a falsehood here. Will you just drill down on this one thing? Stop getting moved from this to this to this. Stop the whataboutism for a moment. Just ask yourself, read what Project 2025 is saying they will do. Just read that and tell me what about that sounds safe. What about installing fascist dictatorship sounds safe? If that sounds safe to you, you are submitting already. We need to recognize that people aren't dictator for just a day. This isn't about anything but protecting human family. Wherever people come in, and in this case, they have come into the GOP and call themselves MAGA. Whenever this comes in, if this were to come into the left, the answer would be the same. When totalitarian fascist harm rears its head, we say no, and we create boundaries. We literally pull people out and say, you will not be allowed to bring that cancer of intolerance to the table of human family. You will not have power with that project. You're projecting upon others a need that you yourself have. Just like with the big lie of 2020, of the election being fraudulent, it is a projection of your malice that you use to do the harm. I think it's also evidence of Donald Trump's increasing dementia, that he knows that it is easier to remember the truth. And what's close to the truth is the truth that you won't tell to anyone, but you can see easily because you feel it and can see it even though it's invisible. You can see the shape of that and you can cast it in reverse. You can trace it in reverse out into the world and talk about it like it's somebody else, like it's the person that you want everybody to attack instead of you. That you deny reality and attack baselessly, and just to have something easy to work from, you take your plans for other people and ascribe them to those that you want to harm, so that you have now framed them for what you are doing. And you've thereby, in a way, normalized what you're already doing, as if you didn't start it. There is a malicious lynch mob inception shape to Darvo, to how Donald lives. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. That is the entire package. Darvonald lives in Darvoland. And interestingly, Donald Trump remains at large. And as mentioned earlier, the consistent incursions upon Donald Trump by the falsehood multiple times, the calling card of the falsehood has been left at the scene of, well, moments when we want to question Donald Trump about something that he said, and he says, well, actually, that wasn't me. That's a lie. That must have been the pernicious and dishonest falsehood. He must have gotten to us again. It was AI, or he kidnapped me for 5 seconds and then replaced me again. However it happened, all you can do is look at the tape. That's not me. That's the falsehood. The falsehood did it. The falsehood! And what can we do? I mean, it's true. The falsehood, obviously. Who but the falsehood could replace Donald Trump in front of our eyes for 5 seconds or 5 hours? Who could puppet Joe Biden? Who could make pizzas out of babies? Who could do all these things and who could create fraud that was everywhere and also totally invisible? What we're seeing is that the Eucharist of Donald Trump is the unbelievable. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is the impossible. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is believing him no matter what. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is believing him no matter how evil what he says about someone else or about us is, because it's him. It is accepting shapes that distort us from ourselves. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is swallowing, embarrassing, humiliating, and obvious lies and abuses. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is swallowing humiliating and obvious lies and abuses. Lies constitute him. This is the blood and the body. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is swallowing humiliating and obvious lies and abuses. Lies constitute him. This is the blood and the body. The more ridiculous the hook we're on, the more painful to interrogate. The more painful it is to question. The Eucharist of Donald Trump is swallowing humiliating and obvious lies and abuses.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man. Trump's voters are by far, you know, I'm at 68, 69%. I'm at 90% total. Like, will you say absolutely? I think it's 68 or 69%.
What are people laughing at there? I think what people are laughing at is abuse. Being abused is something that causes people to laugh in a moment like that. To say, I could shoot people in the street because he's pointing into a camera and he's saying it to the crowd. He's pointing into the eyes of everyone in the crowd and into the eyes of everyone who looks into that view screen connected to that video. He's telling everyone, I could shoot you in the street and no one would care. That is sick. That is disgusting, vile behavior. That's not professional or smart or powerful. It is sick. It is sick. And he's not able to control, he's not taking out the big guns. He is sick. He is a sick mind. And people who are great con artists are good at hiding in plain sight. He is a monster. He is a monster. And he remains at large. The kind prehension. What? What is that? The kind prehension. That is a good question. What is that? What is the kind prehension? You know, the kind prehension, I think, is about seeing something coming, in part for our species, for the human race, for us to be able to have the skill of trusting and verifying, that we trust but verify, that we have the ability, the capability of reason, that we can hear from others. You know, you may have been compromised here. I think you've been lied to. Can you check your data? Can you check your math? Can you ask the person who told you that based on your confidence in them seems to be what you're basing this on. Are you basing that on confidence in the person? If there's something that is a clear, potentially distortion, and you're saying, well, I can't remember what the fact, I mean, what, you know, how I just remember, like, I know that he, you know, I trust him. He said that it happened, and based on confidence in him, I believe what he said. So you believe a claim. Well, yes, I guess I believe a claim. I think that's where we're at, essentially, is that people are not, on a large scale, people are not really, maybe, interrogating whether or not they have the ability to say no, have the ability to ask someone who is a hero, are you eating me? Are you just boiling the water so that you can have my house and have a snack while you redecorate. Is the water a bath or am I soup? Good gracious, good gracious. This is the mindness made this contain. And let's do say, as we are here today, and the comprehension is being fostered, I think it's worth saying a special, buoyant thank you. This was recorded at the Mystery Font from outside, and the signal has some little bits of clips to it, and it's slightly behind, like a clap across a small lake. But it is recorded live, and the signal is sent via Hear Here. Hear Here is a technology that sends an audio feed via cell phone, via Wi-Fi actually, and that Wi-Fi signal sent from inside, from a performance such as a concert or a play or a dance piece, any time-based art, that feed sent from inside is audible via a cell phone and works well with headphones, especially if they are connected physically rather than Bluetooth. Bluetooth has just a tiny more latency, just a little more delay. But in any case, it is something that I'm fostering and bringing into the world, the idea of we've had proof of concept demos here in the past, and there will be more, and bringing this to other spaces as well. And here we are preparing, and we have a partner outside filming with the feed of audio coming through their cell phone to a free app so that they can hear the sound from the performance inside. And we're going to get that going here. Okay. So this is a demo of Hear Here. What is Hear Here? Hear Here is an audio delivery system. It's a protocol that I use here at the Mystery Font and in other places to deliver an amphitheater of attention Alrighty then there. So you'll hear and perceive a bit of a delay and some skips in the sound, some gaps, but is the live
I'm
Wi-Fi feed.
coming through this window to brew new flow. Do you know how I sow? Are you reaping it somehow though? Is this grift or is this rift between us needed? Is this glass frame or this arm conceded? Imagination may be game to play. And when I sing sometimes I want the sound to reach you here where you're seeing me from where. Here might be with you. Here, that might be near me enough. Can I steer my ears close to that stuff? Could this be something I'm welcome not to fear? Is this an invitation to me, dear? Imagination aids our way through fear. Pretend that this is kindness meant for the main line of imagination for every brain. Imagination might be sane. I might be walking to wave through this window so that I know the invitation comes from me to go. I'm waving through a window. Does anybody know? If you need this, it's here. If you need this, in one seer. Why aren't empty spaces open to be filled with the ones full of the love? Is this a thing we might aid our way? And of imagination may be game to play. If you are game, anywhere, anyway. Every day love's campaign is a game. Imagination may be game, may be game to play. If you are game to play today, you stop to see this person walking towards something that you know you were towards this happening, traveling. Where are we walking to together? What is this walk we're on? Is this song part of this travel, or is it a ride along? Are you the one we're following? Because I am ready, I have been practicing. Imagination remembers how you sing. So let's program in this game, this Kodak campaign. Pretend that love is sane, pretend that love is sane, radio science brain. Pretend that love is sane today. pretend that kindness just showed up anyway. You are the gray Aurelius, there's only your heart knew to arrange. You are the sentience that love mentions when it bends toward heavenly ends. This is the mention, this is ending that begins new flight that controls travel through all fathoms and never gets the bends. Imagination purely contents. So thank you, friends. Please come this way again. Imagination may be gained to help us all pretend. Pretenders are where tenders come from forevermore. Please be pretentious, pretend to do something that you love. Be pretentious until you are tentious, until you are tending the love. All of you is here. Let's deliver that all the way clear. The sentient freight, amazing, you hold dear. Thank you. I'm a public display of affection, and you accepted an invitation, and your attention is the biggest gift you can ever give. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It recorded it.
It did. It recorded the whole time, and it's still recording because I thought that might be.
And there we are. That was Radio Science Brain as performed, and my friend was there to record it. And the sound you heard, including with those skips, was what made it through to their cell phone outside. And so I just want to, along with sharing that, say a long delayed thank you. I should be doing this regularly, and maybe doing it would also help someone else join the mix in terms of the work that I'm doing to create art and to create public displays of affection, including the mystery font and the falsehood, to create prehension of fascism, to make sure that democracy is safe, and these kinds of things happen with a very, very small, in fact, tiny budget. I'm barely able to essentially survive, and this is all that I am doing. This is what my focus is to foster this, to restore executive function to myself and to us. And I want to thank...
Dear, let's deliver that all the way clear. The sentient freight, amazing, you hold dear.
I want to thank Derek.
Thank you. I'm a public display of affection, and you accepted an invitation, and your attention is the biggest gift you can ever give. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek, for continued support, and thank you to anyone else who might join at Patreon, Public Displays of Affection. Public Displays of Affection at Patreon. for multiple years of attention and kind messages from time to time. I cannot thank Derek enough for being a supporter and a believer in me and what I'm doing, and offering thoughts from time to time that help me tune what I'm doing. I am deeply grateful and thank you from the bottom of my heart. At publicdisplaysofAffection.art, there is a link to give patronage there, and otherwise at patreon.com/public displays of affection. That is one way to support the work of Public Displays of Affection, and it is deeply appreciated. And what that support goes towards this year is the development of the Mystery Font series, but specifically the core project is developing a live performance of The Falsehood. And that includes the glow work that you're seeing and the work of a liaised mind of the Statue of Liberty, of a characterization of Trump and others purveying falsehood, and about an hour-long live performance that unpacks how we might be able to apprehend the falsehood in ourselves and in society, is the central project, through music, through a deeply somber and diluted visual spectrum of this reduced kind of a sensory deprivation to just small amounts of information coming in, such that we can use our associative gifts as audience to knit together what meaning is there, and together find a way out of this labyrinth of falsehood. That the project of building the falsehood and gathering artists to do that and talk about democracy and share art through the Mystery Font, that's the work that Public Displays of Affection is doing now, as well as creating opportunities through utilizing things like Here to use different kinds of spaces and relationships between artist and audience when delivery of sound from discrete spaces to other spaces is possible and simple, easy to do. And this kind of proof of concept testing here, even with its foibles of gaps in the sound and things like that, these are steps in the mission of bringing art to unexpected places, because why not? And you can be a part of helping foster storefront performances, fostering Mystery Font 42 Ope Intuit, and fostering live production and filming of that live production of The Falsehood, to help us together apprehend what is happening factually, and that each of us develop calibration again, reconnection with the calibration of our intuition and our scient minds, and the courage that we have to be able to look falsehood in the face, even if it's our own face, or our true love's face, or our hero's face, a stranger's face, the face of someone we need to depend on. How can we foster safe reproach, safe conversations that may be difficult to have, so that we're holding our boundaries as a democracy. Yes, a constitutional republic, and yes, a democracy. That we have aspects of these things fused, and that one person, one vote is something we can perfect rather than abandoning. We are the reality distortion fielding. Top story, Donald Trump remains at large. Donald Trump remains at large. Tucker Carlson should be tried for sabotage and sedition. And again, thanks so much to my longtime patron, Derek, who has been along for the journey as a believer in what this work is about for a number of years. Thanks, Derek, and continued halcyon forward movement. I appreciate all your support and belief and advice over the years. Thank you. And feel free to chime in with your support if you'd like to support this effort, if you'd like to support an artist making work that focuses sentinel intelligence upon our ability to survive together in kindness. We are the reality distortion fielding. And that top story again. Donald Trump remains at large. And let's get into a radio science brain specific to the first patron I ever had, and from what I know of him, a very kind person. From what I know of him, a creative person. From what I know of him, a believer in intuition and science and daring to work with one's gifts. And so thanks to that patron that I have been supported and treated so kindly by. And here we go. This is Radio Science Brain. Up. Align the sound protocol. Unmute. Here we are. Let's take a brief pause. Here at the Mystery Font, and We're going to do a move through radio science brain as a way to say thank you. Cup of coffee. And I want to let my mind stretch out and share this way of saying, this is what your support and kindness allows me to pursue everything that I'm doing, including stretching out in a way that I foster flow through, that I call radio science brain. And this is a new, very chill, casually created, quickly created track that I find fairly pleasant. Thanks, Derek, for being a patron of my art. You are the sentient frame in a phrase you make every day. Imagination told both of us that it may be game to play. We are the sentient chariot driver's mate. We are the sentient freight survivor's chariot. I believe in you, I know your sentience can carry it. You are the mindless fit, you are the kindness writ. In a kit, you deliver it. Radio science brain, we may begin to play. We show humanity if we are in our way. Imagination might contain gentle aid. Brain made, imagination made into aid today. We are the renovation of love's imagination germane. Imagination began today. You are the mindless made me inspired to remain. Thank you for patronage, thank you for believing that I have things to give. Radio science brain. You help me remain. You help me be germane. Thank you, Derek, it's plain. Following your genius, I'm helpful for these meanings of each and all of your gifts, including your thoughts. They're nifty, they help my lift me. I thank you for being along on this journey. Thank you for believing and supporting. Thank you for believing, Derek, in me. Thank you. It is appreciated. And feel free to support Public Displays of Affection at patreon.com, Public Displays of Affection, or at publicdisplaysofAffection.art. We are the reality distortion fielding. And it's a good thing, too, because there are massive distortions in the field of reality. We are charting them together. In between, we're recorders. In between, we try.